Good morning. Turn your attention with me to 1 Kings chapter 3. 1 Kings chapter 3, we're going to study how the wisest man became one of the world's greatest fools. Hard to wrap my mind around that. Hard to process mentally. It's just mind-boggling. But I believe ultimately we are pulled in polar opposite directions in life. The flesh battles against the spirit, which battles against the flesh. But one of the great enigmas in the life of Solomon is how in the world could one who loved God, praised him so eloquently, receive visions, blessings, and affirmations of Yahweh's love, exchange such a precious relationship for the depravity, emptiness, and ruin of idolatry? How do you explain that? It's difficult. He's gone down in history as one of the world's greatest wise men ever. And there are numerous episodes depicting that wisdom. It all starts in 1 Kings chapter 3. We read, beginning with verse 3, that Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father, only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that there was a great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant, my David, my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness and righteousness and in uprightness of heart toward you, and you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on his throne to this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go in or to come out, or go out and come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this your great people?" It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this. And God said to him, "Because you have asked this, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall arise after you. I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you will walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days." And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Then he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, offered up burnt offerings and peace offerings, and made a feast for all his servants. It started out so well. Solomon loved the Lord. He offered great multitudes of sacrifice. This occurred at Gibeon. At some point, the tabernacle had been relocated from Shiloh to Gibeon. It was in Shiloh from Joshua's days all the way to the days of Samuel, evidently. And then Philistines had attacked Shiloh, and the altar, the tent of meeting, tabernacle of the Lord that Moses had made in the wilderness, were at that time at Gibeon. And so that's where Solomon goes to offer sacrifice. And he is offered a challenge. Uh, God basically asks him, "What do you want? Ask and I will give." And he says, "I am but little. I'm an inexperienced monarch, and I don't know how to do this. I'm in over my head. So give me a wise and understanding heart to effectively rule so great a people as your people, O God. And God grants his request along with other blessings, riches, honor, power. And then we have a classic example of Solomon's wisdom at the very end of the chapter. Two prostitutes come in to Solomon. They claim the same baby boy. It's a famous test case. Solomon says, okay, can't decide, just slice the baby up into, give one half to one woman, the other half to the other. The true mother says, no, 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 give him to her out of affection for the baby boy in his life. The other woman says, okay, go ahead and cut him up. And Solomon knows exactly who the true mother is. This became celebrated far and wide. It was a famous test case. And then you have Solomon's wisdom in action. In chapter 4, we read, beginning with verse 20, Judah and Israel were as many as the sand by the sea. They ate and drank and were happy. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms, from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provision for one day was 30 cores of fine flour, 60 cores a meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fatted fowl. For he had dominion over all the region west of the Euphrates, from Tiphsah to Gaza, over all the kings west of the Euphrates. He also had peace on all sides around him, and Judah and Israel lived in safety from Dan even to Beersheba, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, all the days of Solomon. Solomon also had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. And those officers supplied provisions for King Solomon, for all who came to King Solomon's table. Each one in his month, they let nothing be lacking. Barley also and straw for the horses and swift steeds they brought to the place where it was required, each according to his duty. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, breadth of mind like the sand on the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than all other men, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Calcol, Darda, the sons of Mahal. His fame was in all the surrounding nations. He also spoke 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs. He spoke of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of the wall. He spoke also of beasts and birds, reptiles and fish. And all the peoples, or peoples of all nations, came to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and from the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. He was internationally famous for his wisdom and the scope of his rule, from the Euphrates all the way down to Egypt. The abundance of his provision, just the finest of the finest of the finest food, and lots of it, day after day. The breadth of Solomon's mind, people were coming from everywhere to hear of his wisdom. The magnificence of Solomon's temple is something that Jordan will explore with you tonight. It was lavish. Some modern estimates put it into the several billions in terms of modern value. It took him 7 years to have it built, with a construction crew that was in terms of tens of thousands, and another 15 years or 13 years on his own palace, almost twice as long as the temple. He had splendor, he had majesty, and the wisdom of his utterances. He had an impressive literary resume. Um, you think about anyone who could have been the catalyst behind Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and 1 Kings 10, and that just says it all. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Stamp them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and of man. Proverbs 3, 3 and 4. He had it all. He did it all. He started out in spectacular fashion. When you read in chapter 9, verses 26 through 28, King Solomon built a fleet of ships at Ezion Geber, which is near Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent with the fleet his servants, seamen who were familiar with the sea, together with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and brought from there gold, 420 tablets. They brought it to King Solomon. You dive down into chapter 10. The Queen of Sheba comes, and she is just so impressed with everything that she sees. It's eye candy everywhere, everything that she hears. And she says to the king in verse 6 of chapter 10, the report was true that I heard in my own land of your words and of your wisdom, but I did not believe the reports until I came and my own eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity surpass the report that I heard. You look at the rest of the chapter, the great wealth that he had, the imports, exotic imports that came from everywhere: gold, silver, ivory, apes, peacocks, verse 22, and on you can read for the rest of the chapter. His wealth, his splendor, his wisdom were worldwide. He was the literary master of his day in terms of wisdom. He was the international tycoon of his day in terms of his wealth. But something happens to all of that. In chapter 11, 1 through 8, it was read just a moment ago in your hearing. I'll read it again. Now, King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, Hittite women from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the people of Israel, you shall not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clung to them in love. He had 700 wives who were princesses, 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. So Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and did not wholly follow the Lord as David his father had done. Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites, on the mountain east of Jerusalem. He built idolatrous temples facing the temple of God. And so he did for all his foreign wives who made offerings and sacrificed to their gods. The Lord was angry with him, the next verse, and promises this kingdom is going to be taken away from your posterity, to a degree at least. Foreign wives, foreign gods, foreign behavior. But let me suggest to you that the seeds of ruin were already present before his success was solidified. Back in chapter 3, before he even prayed that prayer for wisdom, you have Solomon making a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He took Pharaoh's daughter, brought her into the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. And the people were sacrificing at the high places. However, because no house had yet been built for the name of the Lord, there was idolatry going into this. There was idolatry going out of it. The seeds of ruin were already there. Do you remember what the Lord had had legislated for kings, if Israel was to have a king, what he would have to do if he was king before God in Deuteronomy 17. Well, turn there with me. Deuteronomy 17, beginning with verse 14. Deuteronomy 17, beginning with verse 14. When you come to the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me like all the nations that are around me, you may indeed set a king over you, whom the Lord your God will choose, one from among your brothers. You shall set as king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. Only he must not acquire many horses for himself. Check. Or cause the people to return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses, since the Lord has told you, you shall never return that way again. Check. He shall not acquire many wives for himself. Check. Lest his heart turn away, nor shall he acquire for himself excessive silver and gold. Check. And when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself in a book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priest, and it shall be with him. He shall read it in it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God in keeping all the words of this law and these statutes and doing them, that his heart may not be lifted up above his brothers, that he may not turn aside from the commandment, either to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue long in his kingdom, he and his children in Israel. Check. How many of these did he violate? All of them, essentially. You think he was reading God's law every day toward the end of his life, doing all these other things? Oh, how in the world can wisdom and folly, such incredible wisdom and such incredible folly, exist in the same person? Part of me just can't even begin to understand that. And the other part of me totally gets it. But that's the part of me I'm worried to death about. Solomon did not always practice what he preached. And incremental compromises can add up over time. Little steps away from the truth can become big ones over time. Jesus tells the church in Ephesus in Revelation 2, verse 4, you have left your first love. He tells the church in Laodicea, chapter 3, verse 17, for you say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not realizing that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. Success sometimes changes people, and they become victims of their own success. So there's some lessons here for us and some whoppers. And I'll quickly go over those, and then the lesson will be yours. Number one, pray for wisdom. James tells us in James chapter 1 that there are great adversities in life, and we should count it all joy when we fall into trials of various kinds, but we should meet that with prayer for wisdom. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. That's James 1, 5 and following. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. All of us need a healthy dose of wisdom, because all of us are in over our head in this life. And we should imitate Solomon in that regard. But when the Lord answers that prayer, we need to hang on to it for dear life. Isn't that what Solomon himself says over and over and over and over again in Proverbs? Yes, he does. He said it. Recognize that the outer trappings of success can be liabilities, not assets, in the bigger scheme of things. Or what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Jesus asks in Matthew 16:26. What is Solomon really known for? He's known for what Jordan will be preaching on tonight. He built the temple. More than anything else, he's probably known for that. And I don't want to steal Jordan's thunder, but I will make this one little point, that an impressive physical structure is not what God wants from us. It's never what God has wanted. We need to think outside the box, literally and figuratively. And Stephen in Acts 7 showcases the history of thinking inside the box instead of outside the box when it comes to temples. And he closes his thoughts on a note of Isaiah 66, 1 and 2. Heaven is my throne, God says. Earth is the footstool for my feet. Where is the house that you will build for me? And then the part Stephen doesn't quote, or at least it's not reported by Stephen in Acts 7. But to this one will I look, to him who is humble and contrite of spirit, and who trembles at my word. What does God really want from us? Does he want a magnificent, impressive physical structure? Or does he want a heart that is humble and bowed in absolute submission? Maybe Solomon forgot that when he added up all the great things he had done. The same man who gave us much of the Bible's wisdom literature dabbled in folly. I could say that he was eccentric, that he had multiple personality disorder, that he was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that in this tug of rope, he went after the spirit, then went after the flesh. But perhaps if Solomon were to come back from the dead and give just two passages for us to consider, one might be Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. Who said that anyway? Solomon did. Or Proverbs 3:5-7, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Oh, if Solomon had just listened to his own words guided by the Spirit of God, how better off he would have been at the end of his life when it counts the most. Great, great lessons for all of us. You're subject to the invitation call of Jesus Christ. You need to obey the gospel. What better time than now to confess your faith in Jesus Christ, to repent of your sins, to be baptized for the forgiveness of every sin you've ever committed? What better time to return to your God and to humbly walk in wisdom rather than in foolishness? Let's sing a song. Encouragement to all of us.